Hey guys, and welcome back to Morgs Menu. So today is going to be another Cooking 101 video. This one is going to be part 3 of my 3-part video series that I've started just on giving tips and tricks on how to make the overall cooking process easier for beginners. I'm going to be doing other videos throughout this series, but the first 3 are kind of all connected in that I broke out kind of tips on the overall cooking process into 3 different videos. So the first was everything that you can do before you even start cooking. The second was going over all the tips and tricks for during the actual process. And today's video is going to be looking at everything that you can do after the cooking process to help make the process easier, make your food taste better, things like that. So if you haven't seen the first 2 videos, you definitely want to check those out before you watch this one. So I'll link those down below as well as throughout the video for you. But if you have and you're up to speed, let's go ahead and get started. So today's video, we're actually going to have 5 tips and tricks for things that you can do after the cooking process to help improve it for next time. So tip number 1 is to save the recipe that you followed. And I know that sounds like maybe common sense, but before like Pinterest was really big, or like maybe you just don't want to use Pinterest or something like that, a lot of times I would just like open up a tab on my computer, go through a recipe, do it, and then I'd be like, a couple months later, like, oh, I want to do that again. And I'm like, oh, where was it? And I'm trying to Google it and find it again. And sometimes you can find it again, sometimes you can't. So if you're someone like me who uses Pinterest a lot, just pin it on there. Create a Pinterest. If you don't have one, you can just link it with like your Google, Facebook, whatever, and create one. If you don't want to use Pinterest and you'd rather kind of write things down or have something more printer, like pen and paper in front of you, you can, get a notebook, whatever. Or they also have these recipe journals that I actually got one of these for Christmas, so I wanted to share it with you. But it's just a book where I can kind of write down any recipes that I have. So this will be good for any recipes that maybe I make alterations to or something like that, and I want to write them down in here. So like this one specifically, it has different sections. So this has like an appetizer section, and then the second section is main dishes. And then it has sides, soups, and salads. And then at the very end, it has desserts. So pretty cool. So I'm sure you can get different things like this online on Amazon, Target, different places like that. But this one's really cool because it has, where you can write down the exact recipe, what you're serving it with, the date, the amount of time, the amount of servings that it makes, any nutritional information that you want to write down, the ingredients, any hard to find ingredients, directions, any different notes, and then how it turned out at the bottom. So it has one for excellent, good, fair, and never again. So this one's just really cool. If you're new to recipes and prefer to do like pen and paper, that something like this would be cool just to store it in, and you can kind of keep it on your counter or something for decoration. But just save the recipe, whether it's electronically or writing it down or printing it out, just so that if you do like it and you want to try it again, or you want to make any alterations for it, it's there for you so you can remember to look at it. Tip number 2 is once you have printed off that recipe or pinned it or whatever you're doing with it, make any notes that you find necessary on any changes that you made to it. Maybe you altered an ingredient for an allergy or a preference on food. You didn't like some of the vegetables or something that were in it. So you want to make a note of that, just because if it does turn out a little bit different, you want to make a note of what you actually changed. So that way, if you go back and do it again and you maybe want to change what you changed again, you can kind of know what you changed by that. So just make a note. You can make a note on your phone. If you do a recipe or write it down, it would be really easy to write it down in something like this. But if you pin it on Pinterest, you could also just like make a note on your phone or something like that of things that maybe you changed on the recipe. So that way you know to either make that alteration again or switch up the alteration depending on how it all turned out. Tip number 3, which might be one that most people don't want to do, but you should definitely try and ask for feedback on your recipe after you've made it. If you just made it for yourself, then yeah, that's kind of difficult. You could ask yourself for the feedback, but if you've made it for anyone else, say it's a recipe that maybe you made for yourself first and then you tested it out with your family or one of your friends or your roommate or whatever the case is, get their opinion on it. Because I know for me, like a lot of times I'll make something and I'll think it's not that great, and then like Mitch is in love with it and it's his favorite thing and he wants to make it all the time. Or it could be the other way around. It could be something that I think should turn out really, really well, and then it's not as good. So it's always good to try and ask for feedback for whoever you're serving it to, and hopefully they'll be honest with you. I mean, if it's someone that, you know, lives with you and you're going to be feeding them a lot, I would think that someone would want to be honest with you, just so that you don't cook it for them and they continuously don't like it. So just get that honest feedback from whoever you can, and that's really going to help you kind of realize maybe where you went wrong or different things that you wanted to change. It could be something simple as changing out a spice, changing the amount of time you cooked something, things like that. But just ask for overall feedback on the recipe so that you know whether you want to switch it up or do it the exact same way. So now for tip number 4, I've talked a lot about making alterations on the recipes, and this tip is to make minor alterations when you're making those alterations. Maybe it's just swapping out a specific vegetable. So say something calls for peas and you switch it out for corn instead. That could work, depending on the recipe obviously, but that could definitely work. You know, say you switched out sweet potatoes for regular potatoes. That could be something small. Say you switched out just using regular salt for garlic salt. Like little things like that are not going to hurt it. However, doing a recipe that you've never done before and you're making big giant alterations, that's kind of setting yourself up to might not tasting very good. So say you get a dish that calls for, you know, chicken as the main meat or protein of it, and it has a bunch of toppings and things like that on it. If you switch that out and try to use shrimp or try and use steak or try and use something else, it could definitely not marry well with the flavors because it's something that was based on using chicken. It also may not work if you don't adjust the cooking time exactly, because a lot of times, especially with like casseroles or different things like that, it's going to be based on specifically like what type of chicken is used in that recipe. So you just want to make sure that you're just making small alterations. Obviously, if you don't like the main meat that's used in something and it looks like something that's like a big piece of the recipe, maybe just try a different recipe rather than trying to alter it too much. Obviously, if you're more familiar with cooking and cooking times and things like that, it's not going to be a big deal to switch out something like that. But if you find a recipe that you're feeling like you need to make more than like 2 or 3 alterations to get it to something that you like, then maybe just try a different recipe that could be similar but that better fits your needs. All right, and the last tip, tip number 5, is not to overestimate your memory, that you can remember of things that you did throughout the recipe. I talked about saving the recipe, writing things down, writing down what you altered. It's so, so important not to think that you can remember everything about the recipe for next time that you make it. Even if you make it, you cook it on a Wednesday and you buy the stuff to make it again on Sunday, you're not gonna remember everything that you do in every recipe that you needed. So just remember to write everything down. It's much better for you to write everything down and never have to look at it than to be caught up in the middle of a recipe and forgot, oh, shoot, I can't eat cheese, so what did I swap this out for? It's so, so much easier for you to just like keep track of everything. Don't overestimate your memory of what goes into the recipe, what changes you made to the recipe, what changes you should make to the recipe. Just don't overestimate your memory and keep a track of everything, and it'll make your life much easier when you go to do it again. Alright guys, and that's going to conclude today's video. This was a little bit shorter one because I didn't have as many tips and tricks for after the process, but I think a lot of these will really help you as far as continuing on your cooking process and getting a better cook as you go along. If you have any questions on anything, make sure you leave those in comments down below. Also, stay tuned for future Cooking 101 recipes because I'm definitely going to be doing stuff centered around meal preps, things around budgets. I also have thought while I was making these videos of some more tips and tricks for kind of like just making cooking easier in general that could be applicable for someone who's not just a beginner. So I'm definitely going to be doing a video for that later on. I've already just like, as I'm thinking of things, I'm writing them down. Let me know what you guys think. I also I can do more tutorial style videos for this. Whatever you guys want, just let me know what would be helpful for you, because obviously these videos are really geared towards being educational and helping you guys out. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. If you're new here and haven't yet subscribed, make sure you go and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the videos that I post on Wednesdays and Sundays. Thanks again for watching Morgs Menu, and hope you have a great day. Bye guys.